Garmin has created a really lovely watch, the OS does suffer because it's still using that traditional Garmin OS.
Honestly, having wearables that can help you in a real-time situation is pretty powerful too.
I don't think you need an AI interface like that. I don't think anyone wants an AI-only interface right now because we do have our phones still and we have not gotten past the omnipresence of our phones in our lives.
I just immediately think battery. That's something else I've got to charge.
Add in earbuds as well, and you're suddenly wearing 5 to 6 lithium batteries on your body.
Show of hands, how many people read your terms and conditions?
Absolutely not.
Don't call us out like that.
Welcome, everyone, to the 20th episode of the TechRadar podcast. My name is Josephine Watson, and I'm joined today, as always, by Hamish Hector.
Hello.
As well as Matt Evans.
Hi, gang.
Lance Ulanoff.
Hello.
And friend of the show and fellow tech reviewer, Mark Ellis.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Thank you for having me.
This week, we'll be giving our big half-year roundup in the world of wearables, discussing the latest and greatest devices and new health metrics new hardware brings. We'll be talking about new form factors, rumoured or otherwise, as well as our predictions for rumoured devices we're expecting to see later this year, like the Pixel Watch 4. But first off, here's Hamish with this episode's edition of In Case You Missed It.
Yes, well, in case you missed it, we did a whole podcast about Samsung's foldables last episode, and since then there have been plenty of reactions to the phones. Mostly positive, but some are frustrated that S Pen support has been taken away from the Fold 7. Samsung has explained it wanted to prioritize making the phone as slim as possible and suggested that the S Pen wasn't a super popular accessory, but there are reports it could be developing a whole new stylus which would hopefully work with the Z Fold 7. Lance sat down with Google's Android leader Samir Samat to discuss the big changes coming to Android 16, like the Material 3 expressive design overhaul, and to uncover details such as Chrome OS and Android becoming combined into one singular platform. They also touched on Android XR and its smart glasses, but Meta wasn't ready to be left out of the conversation as it officially launched its Oakley HSTN smart glasses. Right now, the only pair available is a limited edition white design with golden prism lenses, but cheaper options should be launching later this summer. The new glasses boast a longer battery and higher quality cameras compared to Meta Ray-Bans, though they are a little pricier to boot. Speaking of wearables, Samsung is reportedly not simply working on rings, watches and glasses, but potentially necklaces and other wearable designs. The Emmy nominations also just dropped, so be sure to let us know which show you're rooting for in the comments down below. Lastly, we wanted to update you on those step climbing RoboVacs which we saw at CES earlier this year. Josie reviewed Dreamy's X50 Ultra Complete, and while its object detection was a little hit and miss at times, the robot conducted a thorough clean aided by its impressive climbing, so it seems all of those were worth the hype after all.
Thanks, Hamish. And yeah, honestly, it was really impressive, that robot vacuum. And it's actually not because it can climb steps that it's impressive, it's just a good robot vacuum.
Can it descend as well as ascend?
Well, it can ascend 6 centimetres or lower, and it can descend, but it will do that by going ba-dunk as it goes down.
Right.
It's a bit dramatic.
But
so,
it couldn't do a staircase.
No.
I feel you've got little lips, because I can definitely think of some steps in like my parents' home where it's not a full-on step.
Like a boundary or a threshold.
Yeah, it's just a boundary or a threshold, and it sort of means there were some levels of the ground floor which, you know, I tested a robot vacuum at theirs when I was still living there, and it just could only do like a part of the ground floor, whereas this, it seems like would actually be able to go up and down that little bit.
It is useful for those specific instances, but I would say I could probably name on one or two hands how many people I know with that, and you are now one of those two hands. So, you know, it's not necessarily massively the most important thing, but I wanted to pick up on some of those other, in case you missed it, stories. So we heard there about the Emmy nominations. I think that's quite exciting. As Hamish said, let us know in the comments what you're voting for or what you think would be good to win. Do any of us have any strong feelings? Lance, you watch quite a good bit of TV. What's your feeling on those nominations?
How do you know I watch so much TV?
Because you always seem to know about the latest shows, and I know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, this list is honestly really incredible because there's a lot of really good shows in there, and so many from Apple, which I've watched, I think all of them. Shrinking and The Studio in particular are two of my favorite shows. But the fly in the ointment here for this whole thing is The Bear, which is in comedy. I've watched The Bear. I like The Bear. It's not a comedy. I can't remember. I mean, I barely chuckled. It's intense. It's good, but it doesn't belong in there. But in any case, I hope Harrison Ford wins for shrinking his first Emmy because he is so. I've written it before. I've posted it. It is his best work. It is such a. If you haven't watched that show, it is just so freaking good. And also, by the way, so completely different from The Studio, which is another show that I in particular love because I love movies and it's so insidery, but also absolutely hilarious. Totally worth watching.
I mean, it's been a great year for drama series, I think.
Yeah.
She says, as someone who has watched none of the seasons that are up for nomination.
I mean, Severance is really good.
Yeah.
You know, continuing
as
Apple's-
everybody has told me on this planet ever, Severance
It's
is really
fantastic.
good. Yeah.
I really enjoyed The Last of Us. Season 2 is really, really good. And I think it succeeds at being a fantastic adaptation of the games. Because it takes place in the first part of the second game and turns it into TV. But it does quite a bit to tweak the story. And I think every change they've made has been for the better. And also, I think, I know at home we'll be rooting for Andor a bit as well. So I think that's been quite a fun little
that's
Star
one I did
Wars
see.
adventure.
By the way, if you guys haven't seen The Pit, which is in for drama,
Yes, I've seen that. That's
is an
amazing.
Not seen it.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. Oh my God,
No.
make the time. It's so good. Feels so real and visceral.
You
The
definitely
only-
can't talk about it. It's one of those things you cannot talk about because you'll just give the entire thing away straight away. But I agree, it's amazing.
This is why I don't read any of our coverage on TechRadar for that exact reason, because I'm always worried that I'm going to get spoils for something I know I won't be able to watch in like a year until like a year or two's time. We were talking in there about some of the limited series as well, Matt and I, because obviously you've got Adolescence up for that. British, let's go,
Yeah,
Stephen
let's
Graham
go.
for best supporting, actor in a limited series.
I think so, yeah.
So good. Yeah, 100%. I think he's a show. If he's not a shoe-in, it's crazy because he was so good in that.
Yeah.
I hope it gets an award for its continuous shots. The most
Yes.
insane thing I've ever seen. The best use of drone technology to make that work I've ever seen in my entire life. And they really did it. I had a massive argument with my adult son about whether or not they were doing continuous shots. He was insisting they were not. And I said, I've seen, and it turns out I was right. I mean, literally handing off a drone, like having the drone sort of be in hand, then go up, or I forget which direction it went, one or the other, but going from being a drone to being in the hand to keep going into the building. Amazing stuff.
It was that shot of the him escaping through the school window that was just seeing the behind the scenes of that. Incredible. But that being up against Black Mirror is an interesting one as well, because it's the best season of Black Mirror I think we've had in a long time.
I've not watched it yet. I've watched every season apart from this one. I'm a bit behind.
The first episode in particular, I just think was it's always going to be harrowing, but I think this season took things to a place that felt a lot more present than perhaps some of the other seasons have. Like, it felt a lot more imminent. And whether or not that's going to be the clinch point for it to win against something like Adolescence for Best Limited Series would be really interesting.
Was there anything anyone thought might get nominated, or any actors they thought might get nominated and who didn't get anything?
I've not read through the full list yet, no. But what I've seen so far, I think, like Lance said, the amount of content from Apple TV that's on there demonstrates how good that platform is. We can't stop watching it. There's just every week nearly, it seems like something new's coming on. I think when Apple TV first launched, I was a little bit skeptical about it. You know, how much effort are they going to put into this? How much budget are they really going to put into it? But I think they've literally put the money where the mouth is. It's incredible stuff.
Been a great year for TV, I think. Several great years for TV, but I think this one in particular, it felt like all of the cards lined up in a certain way, that you just had all of these great show seasons coming out. Just had Squid Game come out as well, obviously. And Stranger Things this year, or is that next year?
It
End of
straddles this year and next year, I think, because they're releasing it in 3 parts.
Yeah, my question is like, what? I feel like a lot of the sort of shows that have defined the last like couple of years are coming to an end. Like,
What's next?
What's next? Going back to some of those in case you missed it stories. So I also wanted to pick up on the Meta House Done story. So we have talked on the podcast before about, that being an Oakley collaboration, thinking maybe this is going to be, smart glasses for sport in particular, or with certain optimizations designed in a certain way that fits the needs of a sports person.
Yeah.
Instead, we got another fashion first device.
Yes. So yeah, because the leaks that I'd sort of seen and some were leaning towards, it would be that I think they're called the Sphera Oakley glasses. So those sort of the ones that look a little bit like a visor. People wear for sort of cycling and running.
Yeah.
And they might have a camera in the middle as well. and that would be what the Oakley smart glasses would look like. Instead, we've got this house done model, which look kind of like more angular Wayfarers. They do have sort of a unique design aesthetic, but if you sort of looked at them quickly, you probably couldn't tell too much of a difference between them.
No.
I think the only two sporty benefits that you're getting is I think they're tweaking the AI a little bit to help with some things in terms of trailers that they've released and images. There's a golfer asking about wind speeds and things like that. So it might be sort of more casual sports compared to someone wearing them as running or cycling glasses. And then the prism lenses I mentioned are sort of Oakley's design of lenses, which are made with all these different colors. The prism lenses they've gone for, I think, the more casual again. So they might highlight a few differences in grass texture for golfers, or really they're polarized lenses. So it's not quite as sporty as people were hoping, is basically the long and the short of it, with a couple of sporty things.
They just feel like a different design option, don't they, compared to what we have already? Which I was a bit disappointed by that. I was expecting, like you say, something a bit more rugged maybe, and I don't do the sort of extreme sports that would require that at all. I mean, running 5K on a treadmill doesn't need that, but I was surprised they weren't going to be something a bit more sports focused.
Yeah, because we've tested on TechRadar, we tested a couple of smart glasses like the Engo, which are those kind of wraparound glasses that connect to a smartwatch or a heart rate monitor, and you see, I think, projected in the well of the glasses there, which is like a heads-up display with heart rate and all that kind of thing. So for cyclists and runners, that works really well for them. It doesn't quite go into the kind of information that Hamish was talking about. The closest I think we've tested from a sports perspective were the Form Smart Swim goggles, which have kind of inbuilt compass and all that kind of thing, so you can determine where you are in open water swims. So that offers like a real kind of like Iron Man heads-up display kind of experience. But when it comes to the actual design of the white Ray-Bans with the gold lenses, I can't stand it. I think it looks awful.
Those are just a limited edition pair. So those ones are sort of up for pre-order right now.
They look like something you buy for a Tekken character.
They've got sort of 6 other more typical lens options and design options coming. And I think so the current models start $499, but that probably is because of the prism lenses as well. The regular models start $399. So which is about $100 more than the current Ray-Bans, which is a little bit annoying, but you are meant to get a slightly better camera. It can record 3K video now rather than just sort of standard full HD. And they have technically a slightly longer battery life, but it's a little bit hard to tell precisely what specs are. They've just sort of put out numbers on, it can last for 9 hours on a single use charge of sort of regular use. And we go, cool, but like sort of what's the battery, you know, capacity, all of this other data isn't really there.
No.
So it's definitely a device that I'm hoping we can get sort of tested at some point. But I mean, I think if you're kind of sporty, they could be worth going for over the typical Ray-Bans. But again, I guess if you don't like the design, then maybe not.
No.
I don't think they look too bad.
I think it depends on the level of hipness. Like, how hip are you? Because these have that sort of hip look. They're cool, but like I don't have that level of style. I would just.
I think you could pull it off, Lance.
You know, the other thing is that I am so lazy that, you know, the reason I don't wear smart glasses all the time is that I just have never taken the time to get prescription lenses put in, because I can't wear just straight up sunglasses like this. I won't be able to see a thing. I'll have the AI telling me that I'm about to walk into a wall, but that won't stop me.
And then, Lance, one of the stories that Hamish mentioned was you sitting down with Samir Samat to talk about all things Android and also some interesting developments around Chrome OS.
But he kind of dove right in with that news. And, you know, he said this so subtle to me, just kind of like in passing, you know, because we were talking about platforms. And then basically he said that they were going to combine Chrome OS and Android into a single platform. It was really a look at, you know, the whole Android ecosystem, all the different parts of it, Android 16. And it was right in a moment, obviously, where I just come from the day before. I'd come from the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked, the big, foldable event with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and the Flip, and the fact that those devices are running Android 16. Now, that is a big deal because typically you wait. You don't get the latest version of Android till after Google Pixels come out. They usually have it. Then the other guys, it just takes some time. But he walked me through this whole sort of trunk stable process that they developed over the last year and a half or so that they could give these partners the latest version of Android with their new flagships. And this was the first time we were seeing that. So we were kind of sitting there at that moment. We talked about the new Android 16 and all the new features it has and the expressive Material 3 design and customizability and the deep integration of Gemini and Circle to Search on partners and their devices and how they see that and how they see how Google sees, working with partners and the delineation between, for example, something like Galaxy AI and Google Gemini, because they live on the same phone. And I think when Samsung talks about it, they kind of mix it up a little bit. They don't really get as specific as Samir did with me in the interview about what he says. Well, this is Google's world. We want Circle to Search and Gemini to be the best experience. And then, everyone else can do whatever they want because we don't own AI. And, we just want it to be good things that they will get a lot more out of. We even talked about Android XR because that's the bleeding edge of what's happening. And he oversees that as well. Talked a little bit about the glasses that are coming and how the transformative nature of AI for these AR glasses. And yes, he's been there long enough to have gone through the whole Google Glass experience and has been consistent on the point the same way Google was, that that it's been a long process. They've never stopped working on glass. That's what they keep saying, never stop working on it. But he was ready to admit that they had made some mistakes, that it was like the timing really wasn't right back then. But now component and software and AI all coming together makes this the sort of inflection point for that. So it was honestly, it was a great conversation. He's a really nice guy. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think that it was nice for him to actually reveal some real news to us about such an important platform.
I definitely agree with sort of this idea that, I think the Google Glass was in a way ahead of its time. And I think that, with now where the technology is, I think AI is really what is going to help bring these glasses to being kind of useful, because it's not necessarily that you'll have all of this, stuff on your HUD straight away, but just being able to ask quick questions is kind of what you want from the glasses, to have that completely hands-free experience. And so I kind of do agree with that idea of the tech is kind of now where it needed to be in the first place. Yeah. Because the moment you need to start using another device, or just it's not quite as snappy as you want it to be, the glasses fall down. Yeah.
I think still holding the Google Glass experience against Google at this point is probably a little bit of a misnomer, right? Like, at the time, it was quite funny because I think everyone knew that the tech was not there and the adoption, most importantly, was not there. Now, however long on it's been, it's fine. We can laugh at other people demoing tech about 10 years before it's ready. Elon Musk.
I should say one other thing he did say, the big learning was that, that these things, glasses and watches are for people, first and foremost, jewelry and fashion. The things that they're wearing on their body, and they better look good. And I wore Google Glass out in public, and I can tell you, I did not look good.
I think it's a combination of the technology looking better and streamlining and improving itself, and people's attitudes changing in the other direction of being more accepting of that kind of technology. So I think we're coming to, I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I think we're coming to a meeting point where the two are kind of marrying to allow this kind of technological advancement to take place.
I think it's also drawing people away from their phones. I think that's probably the bigger challenge, really. We live in this tech bubble, and we talk about it all the time, and we get obsessed with it. I've got a Vision Pro at home. I don't know anyone else who's got a Vision Pro, apart from other tech
other tech journalists.
Vision Pro user. Is it in your cupboard as well? Not being used.
I think didn't you write a piece fairly similar to that, Lance, about saying that you've had it for a while, but you don't really know how or when to use it, right?
Yeah.
But that's kind of the point, is that it's convincing people that just to put the phone down. Even Nothing has kind of attempted this in a way with the Glyph, what's it called? I suppose the Glyph, not the Mate. Yeah, the Glyph Matrix, isn't it? The circle on the Phone 3. that's a marketing thing, really. But
Yeah.
the sentiment is there, which is stop looking at your phone. But
Yeah.
that is such a task because 99% of the population are addicted to it.
First off, I wanted to actually rewind a second to something Lance said there about, these devices being fashionable, these devices being accessible. We're seeing new form factors coming out of the woodwork. Some of them are rumoured, some of them are confirmed. The most recent is the Samsung rumoured necklace wearable.
First and foremost, it's important to say that anything like this, this necklace thing, it's rumoured.
Yeah.
It's, it's like the Apple Smart Ring.
Yeah.
It's probably in some stage of early development being tinkered with, and it might yet be thrown away and it will never see the light of day. It's early R&D, if it exists at all. Samsung, I'm sorry. But I can't see how you'd interact with a necklace without having this kind of, I'm envisioning kind of a version of the nothing buds with ChatGPT. And a necklace with that kind of thing is horribly reminiscent of that AI friend necklace that did the rounds not a long time ago, but
Feels like a long time ago.
In tech sphere, it was a long time ago, although that was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
The incredibly creepy trailer that people thought was like a Black Mirror, like viral marketing.
I'm still
Do you
not
remember that?
convinced it wasn't.
Yeah, I
I'm still not
remember it.
convinced it wasn't.
They just bought friend.com, and that was basically their whole business plan, I think, was what came out about that after.
We've been sitting on this domain for 20 years, guys. Now's our moment.
It was awful. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I think in terms of interacting with the necklace, the only other thing I can think of is the kind of AI lapel pin trend from last year with Humane and other people. So you've got a device that sits on your chest with a microphone and a camera, and it takes contextual information and it might sort of send it to your Galaxy Buds or, send it to your watch or your phone to be processed and displayed to you later on. But I can't really see how else it would work.
I don't get it at all.
Keep in mind that Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are at this very moment working on some sort of device that sounds super similar to this, that apparently may be a wearable that incorporates obviously AI, ChatGPT. And I don't even, to me, that seems like it's going to be dead on arrival because every single one of these things that you guys have mentioned sounds basically awful.
Yeah.
The only stuff that really works is where it marries to something that you would wear naturally and it looks completely inconspicuous.
And also, just the other thing is, it's just something else to charge. So the big issue that I have with smart rings, I've got the Galaxy Ring at the moment. I just forget to charge them. And because we'll probably come on to this, but I don't tend to analyse my data that much in terms of health and fitness. I'm not always reminded that I'm wearing it, if that makes sense. Whereas your phone, you just charge your phone because that's what we've been doing for decades. And same thing with your watch to a degree. But when it's a third thing, it has to really fight for a place on your bedside table or just in your mind to remember to charge. So if it's a necklace, if it's whatever Sam Altman and Johnny Ive are doing, is I just immediately think battery. That's something else I've got to charge.
Add in earbuds as well, and you're suddenly wearing 5 to 6 lithium batteries on your body.
It's a funny thing because for me, smart glasses I get because I think even just from the novelty perspective of being able to give that first person perspective of what you're seeing and what you're doing in the world, and that AI vision side of things, that feels like something that people have wanted for a while. Fitness trackers in terms of smart rings, in terms of smart watches, they're giving you something. Even if you don't use it, it's there should you ever need to. If you're worried about something health-wise, and a lot of them are obviously now integrating more medically driven health features, that's there and it's useful, and people do want that. I don't think you need an AI interface like that. I don't think anyone wants an AI-only interface right now because we do have our phones still, and we have not gotten past the omnipresence of our phones in our lives. So why would you need something that just takes that one job off of your phone, and it's the one job that adoption rate is still very low?
Yeah, I think that's where it comes down to, is the fact that a lot of these devices can do multiple things. So just something that can just do AI is a bit pointless. So that's when you sort of think about something like a necklace. If it is just going to be a bit of an AI companion, how useful is that? Maybe if it's detecting something by being near your heart is maybe something it could do with.
Maybe.
But
That's
again,
true.
But if you want an AI device with a microphone and a heart rate monitor built in, You've already got the smartwatch form
Yeah.
factor. Why would
Maybe
you?
it can measure like your breathing, like tell you if you've got a cold.
Again,
so you can hear a
smartwatches
rattle
can
in your
do it.
Yeah, true.
Because then again, and you could say, oh, maybe we'll have other kinds of sensors. Because I think as we're sort of starting to see a bit, the limit of what you can measure from this position is being reached. So the fact that you now have a sensor where you have to use your thumb and take the watch off, which I think is a good thing, because I think that it's not too sort of difficult to do, and it actually makes the watch a little bit more useful. But maybe that's an idea that this necklace will incorporate a few other things. But again, also if it's just sort of this device that is just a bit of a sensor that you can use every so often, you probably don't need to be carrying that around. You're probably not just sort of walking down the street being like, oh, I'm going to check my antioxidant levels as I go to this party or whatever.
Doesn't it feel like we've got the sensor part covered? We have we're wearing rings, we have our phone, our watches, all of these things have sensors for movement, and if it's touching our skin with the watch, it knows quite a bit about us. It's really a question of the interface, right? Interfacing with you, the microphone, the audio, the speaking, being able to connect to the intelligence. And you've seen when companies try and create a different screen for having that interface. What Rabbit R1 tried to do, a completely useless screen, like monochromatic, very little information. Sometimes you could open up a camera, but otherwise it was just kind of useless. When you actually want a full screen interface with an AI, you're going to go to the phone or some similar device. And so anything that is simply just another physical device that adds some sensors and that for some reason wants to talk to you, it seems extraneous and ridiculous. It's like they have to understand that, we want it to be sort of like all passive. Like we don't have to think about it. Use the sensors on our body, collect the information, and then when I'm ready, I will check in on that on my best interface available, which is still my phone.
Yeah, it should really be a set it and forget it thing.
Yeah, and you've just described a smart ring, which is why they've done so well.
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. It's it's a discrete, unobtrusive fitness tracker that you can then sort of, you don't have to actively monitor. It's not flashing at you. It doesn't give you any haptic feedback. You check in with it when you're ready, or when you open up your phone. It might send you a push notification if there's a problem. But yeah, that's exactly why they've done so well.
And also sort of the set it and forget it on the AI side for wearables, I feel like it's becoming more of a thing. There seems to be this sort of push either from development or devices we're seeing where you kind of have an AI always listening in and it can make notes for you. I saw something at CES, I think it was called the Bee. It was a little necklace.
Oh, yeah.
That I think you sent me to that. And it's a little bracelet, that can sort of record your conversations and it can make little notes for you. And, if it's a health tracker and it's tracking your health data and you've consented to that, that's good. And if it's sort of tracking what you're saying, that's good. But the microphone won't just pick up me. It's also designed to pick up, the conversations you have with other people to remind you of what you said. And then you go, okay, well, do they want me recording this? And I'm sure if I come to work and we have work meetings, there'll probably be, sensitive conversations that people don't want recorded in all these situations.
I was going to say, not a device a journalist wants, given that we deal with embargoes and information that cannot be publicly shared.
If it's processed on device, an AI transcription service as an external microphone, it's not a bad plan.
Because the other thing is, if you do then hit some of these, I don't want it to record here, because they will say, oh yeah, you can set it so it doesn't record at your workplace and do this other stuff. And so suddenly you set loads of areas where it's designed to be switched off. And then suddenly the thing which is only useful because it's on all the time is suddenly not on all the time. And so it's not useful. It's like, oh, in some of these smart glasses, it can tell when you're about to leave home because it's got a camera and it's seeing you've not picked up your keys. And so it can do that. But if it's not on all the time at home, it's not going to know if you picked up your keys or not. And so suddenly it's
redundant if you're not using it intentionally.
But if you are using it all the time, probably feels a bit weird.
Yeah. Though you never know when the terms and conditions are going to change, because WeTransfer just changed their terms and conditions, I saw, which means that they can now use the, my wording here might not be fully correct, so I encourage you to go and read the full story. Apparently, the new terms and conditions state that files you have transferred using WeTransfer will be able to be used to train their AI. So actually, any device, even if it does have on-device things, we are now reaching a point where those terms and conditions, you do actually need to read them, and if
I
they
use
change, you need to read
all
them.
the time.
Well, exactly.
Is that on by default?
exactly.
Do you get to opt out of that? Or is
If you agree to the new terms and conditions, I seem to
Which we all do,
remember,
don't we?
then,
Is that
then you
Is
are.
that
to use
historic
it?
transfers as
I
well?
don't
Probably
think
not
so. I
historic.
think it's all new transfer. I've created a pandemonium in the
why you-
studio
we're
as we
all-
all deal with this revelation. On the WeTransfer thing, just to clarify on that front, the changes were due to go into effect on 8th of August, which gave it the ability to use uploaded files to improve performance of machine learning models. It was a sweeping set of rules that were just generically laid down to basically give it the option if it needs to. It has now confirmed that it does not intend to use people's private files. However, it's still a lesson, and it only really has made that confirmation off the back of huge public outcry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
same goes for your wearables, same goes for your devices. Read those terms and conditions every time and say if you are unhappy with them, vocalize it.
Definitely.
Wait. Show of hands. How many people read your terms and conditions?
Absolutely
Don't
not.
call us out like that, Lance. That's not fair.
We can send the terms and conditions to AI though and get an executive summary of anything that might bother us.
That's true.
Yes.
That's very
There
true.
we go.
You'll get half of it wrong, but
Yeah. Right.
Well, yeah.
Before we get as bogged down as we would if we were actually reading terms and conditions, let's move on to the next topic. So on the one side, like I say, we've got these new form factors. On the other, you're kind of seeing what's happened in phones, the homogenization of smartwatch design. Matt, you mentioned in your Garmin Venu X1 feature that you wrote recently about it feeling like Garmin's take on an Apple Watch. Is that sort of wider trend something you're seeing a lot of?
Yes. I'll illustrate by, this is the Garmin Venu X1, which Mark, you've reviewed as well.
yeah, I've just realized, is it the Venu? Because I've been calling it the Venue.
Venu or Venu?
I don't know.
I've never heard it vocalized by a Garmin representative, so I genuinely
One
don't
of us
know.
is right or wrong.
Yes.
It's actually Venu.
And I've got the Apple Watch Ultra here, so you can clearly see there's a lot of similarity in terms of design philosophy. There are a few bits and pieces that are different, but in general, it has definitely moved towards this kind of Apple squircle, that sort of design philosophy. And it is something that we are seeing across the board. So this is the Samsung Galaxy Watch8, which we'll come on to later. And as you can see, they've retained the circle design, but they've used the Ultra's kind of, again, that kind of squirkly cushion, they call it. So there is a movement towards a generic kind of look for smartwatches. But having said that, I'm sure we'll come on to this later. Having used it, like, it does give you a bigger screen, and I've really enjoyed using the Venu X1.
However, you had a slightly different take on it, right?
I didn't dislike it. I think for me, there were two problems, two big problems, I think. Well, no, three problems, let's go for it.
Actually, there's 10.
Battery life, 8 days to 2 days if you turn the always-on display on. I've got
Yep.
it right, haven't I? And I think that the OS, I don't know what you thought about the operating system, but it's fantastic because it's Garmin and you can track everything, literally everything from dancing to running. But the problem with it is it looks like it needs a bit of a refresh, I think. Particularly when you compare it to something like watchOS, which is, I still think, the best mobile operating system on the market for smartwatches personally. There was that. And the other thing was just, I think just the design for me, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a Garmin, weirdly, which I guess is what they're trying to go for, in a way,
Yeah.
aren't they? But
It feels like it's Garmin's lifestyle Garmin watch. But having said that, I do kind of agree with the OS. I'm just sort of scrolling through it at the moment. I don't know how much the camera's going to be able to pick up. And it's nowhere near as kind of smooth, or it doesn't look as good as the watchOS Smart Stack. But on a regular Garmin watch, it almost doesn't seem to matter because you've got this big, chunky 5-buttoned creature that you can scroll through, and it's almost like a reduced, a stripped back OS, which is more along the lines of a sports watch. It's not a lifestyle thing. It's here to do a job, and it will do that job for 16 days without needing a charge and show you full color maps, and sometimes even an MIP low power screen in order to get you the full 20 days. The idea was that it's a workhorse. It's not something that looks bright and beautiful. Where Garmin has created a really lovely watch, the OS does suffer because it's still using that traditional Garmin OS. So it doesn't quite the design aesthetics doesn't quite match up with the use case.
They're not really a UI software first company in terms of how they make things behind the scenes. Obviously, there's a lot going into how they do the health metric side of things, but it's not exactly designed to have that flash zippy feel that Samsung and Apple have both gone for. Well, and mastered really.
I think I called it. I think it's Garmin's ultimate anti-Apple Watch Ultra watch. If that makes sense. Probably a bit simpler than
Catchy.
that. Don't quote that, please. But,
I'll be saying it for days.
I just think that they've looked at it, like you say, they've gone as far as they want to, but they are still they're governed by their operating system. I completely understand that. What I do like about it is how slim it is on the wrist. It's really
I love that. I'm so used to Garmin watches having like a 13, 14, 15 millimeter profile. So to have that kind of skim across your wrist is really, really nice.
Matt, I'm just curious. That does have something that no Apple Watch has, though. Does it have like a flashlight
Yes, it does.
on the top of it?
There you go.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
See right there. That's it. I'm sold.
I'm sold.
It can go red.
That thing is, by the way, from where I sit, that thing is bright.
Yeah,
It is, yeah.
It might be going straight down the lens towards you.
They do not mess around. I cannot see you anymore because I'm blind. But
It does do what Apple hasn't done, which is integrate full color maps and routes into the running, the workout app, and to see, which Garmin has done for ages, but to see it on a screen like this when you're running and to scroll down, you're like, oh, I can see where I'm going to go for like miles, and it's really, really cool.
What's the point of the torch?
Hey?
What if you're running at night, for example, and you want to see?
So I have done this when I was running at night. I've put the red torch on, and because my wrist is facing the floor, I have a little spotlight so that, so people can see where I am.
Yeah.
I've used it. I went camping last weekend, and I used it to find my way in the dark. If you get up in the night to go for a wee, and you don't want to get like night brightness by like turning on the proper light, it's just because you.
Well,
use
anytime you use your phone torch, you to just use the watch instead. And if it's right there on your wrist, it might actually be easier than getting your phone out of your pocket.
you get something lost under your bed. And
Yeah.
you put your wrist under there.
You can
I mean,
pretend
come
to be
on.
Buzz Lightyear. There's lots.
I don't know why, just because when I saw it, the only use case I could think about it would be sort of a Resident Evil situation where, because I sort of imagine like Leon Kennedy, like the police officer with the gun over the hand, and he only has the torch in hand, but now he's got his other hand free because he's got the torch on his watch, and he go around.
The fact that that's the only use case you've got for it shows
That's
me
the
you're
only
probably
thing.
not the target audience.
No.
for this watch.
And it's like, I don't get the point of this, so I'm just going to ask. So, is it in case there's a zombie apocalypse? I don't know. I need to find out.
Well, the battery life wouldn't last long enough for if it was a zombie apocalypse. So,
Well,
Yeah, that's it. It's the rest under my Beretta.
I find that actually the lifestyle features are the ones that I'm least tempted to use. Like, I don't know if any of you guys have ever like set up your Apple Pay or whatever on your smartwatch. I don't know why I get immeasurable amounts of cringe from the idea of paying with my watch. I can't explain it. It just feels really silly to go into a shop and be like, when I'm trying to pay, it's not the look that.
Well, you shouldn't
feels
do it
right.
like that because that's basically you punching the clerk.
Just all of the self-checkout machines in my local supermarkets are busted and no one can figure out why. It's because I keep punching them. And then, we talked a little bit about health metrics so far today. We're seeing a big trend in terms of diversification of biodata, diversification of health metrics. It's not just your HRV anymore. You've got all sorts of things. And Hamish, you also alluded to it. In the new Samsung Galaxy Watch8, there is this antioxidant sensor. So I thought it would be a little bit fun if us in the studio today all quickly do our antioxidant measures now and have a little think about why those results might have happened. Just a bit like an AA for Antioxidants Anonymous instead. Cool. So
Antioxidants Anonymous.
we're going to take a brief pause to set this up and we'll be back with you in just a moment. Right, so we are back. We have all tried. There are some mixed feelings in the room. So, Mark, why don't you start us off? Your score was 40. Why do you think your score might have been 40? This feels very, very
I feel under pressure
like
now.
health counselling.
Which is very low. We should say that's a very low score according to the Watch8. I've got a 3-year-old son and a 10-week-old puppy.
That's enough. That's enough. Obviously, sleep affects your carotenoid level, which that's what this is measuring, right? Yeah. Diet, exercise, everything sounds like it might be sleep.
I've been travelling as well. I went to New York last week, so I think it's a combination of lack of sleep and just all the normal life stresses. I think that's what.
Yeah. What about you, Matt? Yours was 40.
36.
Yeah, 40 the first time though, and then in the 2 minutes of stressing about how you had a relatively low score,
We did it again, and
you
it got
dropped
lower.
Yeah,
You're diminishing in front of us.
Yeah, I'm
it's like withering away.
wasting away as we speak, as we record. So if I'm not on the next podcast, that's why.
Do you have an indication of why your score might have been low to begin with?
Yeah, it's broken.
Yeah, it's broken. Yeah, there you
I
go.
think coming off the back of working very hard as we record for Amazon Prime Day, I went to a wedding in which I slept overnight in a tent because it was all in a field.
Yeah.
We partied hard, we ate junk, and then it's been a stressful few weeks. I guess. But it's one of those things where this is why this feature is a great reminder to get yourself back on track.
Exactly. For me, I had an interesting score because I got 49, which was higher than both of you as people who actually enjoy exercise. But I was quite surprised because I smoke occasionally and my score was a little bit higher, and it is known to wipe out your antioxidants level. However, I've also been doing the 30 plants a day diet for a month now. So, sorry, not 30 plants a day. That would be insane. 30 plants a week. So,
Garden,
I didn't have a garden to begin with, but now my neighbours suspiciously don't either. And so I've been eating 30 different plants a week. That includes grains, nuts, seeds, everything. So I think that might have contributed to my score being slightly higher. It's definitely not my sleep schedule because that is, like Matt says, Amazon Prime Day last week. But Hamish, you won. Let's call it a win.
Still low, I think.
With a score of 51, so 2 higher than me. That was still low, like you say. Why? Have you got anything in your lifestyle that you think might be contributing?
I think in terms of me doing slightly better recently, I think, well, I'm a vegetarian, so I think I naturally eat a lot of vegetables and fruit because that's basically most of what I can eat. And then I have started going to the gym a bit recently, so only once a week, but that's probably helping me to some extent. And I drink a lot of water. I just like water, man. I'm a boring guy.
Yeah,
and
coffee's good for it as well, though. So you like coffee too.
I do like coffee, and I've been having some matcha, so maybe that's all contributing to these things. But yeah, I think on the low side, I think continuing this trend of journalists not getting good night's sleep, I think that's not helped me. I caught up a little bit at the weekend. That's been really hot in the UK recently, and so sort of waking up in sweat some days.
Yeah, not fun. No, it's an interesting one. The reason I asked everyone what their sort of lifestyle is like is because doing a reading like that might give you an indication of some things you can change, but also it's kind of abstracted from the information of why it could be low. We don't know yet how well this might sync up with the sleep data that Samsung collects. Maybe at some point they'll be like, hey, your sleep's bad and your antioxidant levels are bad. Why don't we marry up these two things and suggest you sleep better?
I think this is what these algorithms are able to do so well, is taking all these pieces of information that exist in vacuums, and then it works together to provide contextual information about what's going on. So if your sleep's really bad, but your activity levels are up, it can tell you to maybe, reduce those activity levels in order to allow your body to recover more effectively. It sort of, by taking all these puzzle pieces and combining them into a cohesive whole, that's what some of the like Samsung and Apple lately, and especially people like Aura, are really, really good at doing, because their whole thing is about taking contextual information and using algorithms and AI in some respects to create a picture with as much context as it can probably generate.
And that leads quite nicely on to the actual health perspective from not just fitness, not just activity, but what's going on inside our bodies, conditions we might have. And Lance, I wanted to fling a question your way, because we saw in the last couple of days a report come out from Apple's machine learning research arm that suggests that they're training a new AI model based off of Apple Watch behavioral data, which can hopefully predict a variety of health problems. Obviously, AI and Apple are in an interesting spot anyway, but also we don't think that there's not much confirmation here. There's not much information. But what's your take on that report and how soon we might actually see some of this predictive AI software come out?
Well, it's sort of a proof of concept thing. This is a new foundational model. I think it's called the WBM, wearable behavioral model. And they took like 2.5 billion hours of wearable data. And the thing about data is it's messy, and if you try and go through it the sort of standard way or without AI, you really can't wager what you can't see patterns the way AI can. So that's really what we're finding here, is that they've used it to see patterns that connect directly to conditions, including like pregnancy, to know that someone's pregnant, or respiratory illnesses. But the thing is, from getting from proof of concept to, say, usability, especially in the US, can take some time, because once you say that something is potentially a medical device, it has to be approved by the FDA. Right. You'll notice that certain features within Apple Watch have needed FDA approval, not just them, others, when they want to do something, they're measuring something that is sort of medical grade. Otherwise, they specifically say it's not, and it's sort of just purely anecdotal information. But Apple has leaned super, super hard into health information, health and wellness. They think that this is important, that this is the future. And so what we're seeing with this model, this foundational model now, a few years down the line, this could become part of our Apple Watch. So it is not just telling us sort of in real time what's happening with our heart rate, our other ECG that we can do. It's going to say, hey, I've been looking at all of your data, and you may have asthma. You may have a bronchial infection. By the way, do you think you might be pregnant? Now I'm not saying this is necessarily going to happen, but I really do think that's the direction we're heading with all of these wearables, because a lot of the sort of micro changes in our body are really directly connected to conditions of all kinds, which I think that as normal humans, we can't really see, because we can't pull all that data together in the right way. We also can't measure it against all the other data that's out there to see the patterns. And that's exactly what's happening here. And by the way, I think if I had a chance to measure my own antioxidant level, I'd be just 100% antioxidant. That's
You
just
are
my
a very
thing.
healthy person, though, Lance. Like you don't have too many vices, from what I remember of you.
I don't smoke, I don't drink, I work out, and I'm a very old man. So it may just measure that, sort of do carbon dating instead of antioxidant.
Excellent. There are other ways that, some of these real-time data things are coming into play in a much more useful way. Obviously, we've had for a while things like reports and stuff, but now you've got these features coming out like Workout Buddy. So, we know we've got that coming out with watchOS 26. And then also we've just seen Running Coach. Not had much time between us, we said before the podcast today, to actually try some of these things. But that's kind of where we're seeing the early manifestations of real-time data and feedback. Mark, you had a very quick try of Running Coach last week while you were out in New York with Samsung, right? Anything you could take away from that experience?
Yeah, it's great. I think it's the one example of where this data is, because I think I mentioned earlier that I don't tend to look at the data that I'm recording. I'll start a run. I'll start on the watch the running activity, then finish it and forget I've ever done it, really. And whereas with this, it's taking a lot of that data and using it for to benefit your future performance. It's like the thing that I can't remember when they introduced it, but Apple introduced the thing where you're kind of training against yourself, your past self.
Yes.
So
Virtual pacer.
That's it, yeah. So you're running against your own. I love that. For me, as a very basic runner, that is right up my street. But yeah, like you said, I've not had a huge amount of time to play with it, but I think that it's those sort of features that will get used. And that's the key thing. There's so much stuff we see at WWDC and Google I/O that are amazing, but they don't have mass
manifest.
adoption, obviously. And I know these brands know. I know Apple, Google, etc., Samsung. They know that, but there's always one or two gems. I do think these coaches are definitely one of those, I think.
Yeah.
From the time recording, I had a chat on Monday with Apple's Vice President of Fitness, Jay Blahnik, and we were talking about Workout Buddy. And he was saying Workout Buddy it's first and foremost, it's generative, whereas Running Coach is, you could sort of see it like a flow chart where at the end it has 160 running plans. And it starts you off on one running plan based on your performance. And as you continue to run, it sort of measures where you are in performance-wise, and it switches your lane from lane from plan to plan. So as you get, so for example, if you were to do a 4-week running plan and you were to exceed the one that the running coach started you off with. It will just move you into a different track, and it will send you onto a a running plan for a more advanced user. Whereas Workout Buddy, the way Apple describe it is they explicitly say it's a buddy, not a coach. By still taking this pieces of contextual information that you wouldn't have analysed on your own. Hamish, what are you looking at?
I just loved the idea of it's a buddy, not a coach. I just got sort of Baymax in my head. Just like big round guy, just like giving you a hug while you work out.
That's exactly what they've gone. They've gone for like a virtual, without a body, they've gone for a virtual round, like friend to like, give you, hey, great job. And they'll take things that you wouldn't have analysed by yourself. You mentioned that you don't tend to analyse this data. This will take it for you. They've trained it on the voice patterns of the Apple Fitness Plus instructors.
Yes.
Because
who are iconic, start to finish, every one of them.
Yeah. And if you've ever used Apple Fitness Plus, you know exactly what kind of like, hey, great job. Like, this kind of sort of very...
I've never felt more loved than I did when I was using Apple Fitness.
Yeah. Normally, when you've got somebody in a headset yelling at you to do more press-ups, it's a negative experience, but they've turned it into a positive.
Yeah.
And mid-run, they'll say, you've not just like crushed your fastest mile, you've just ran your 100th mile of the year, or something like that. So they'll take all these little bits and pieces of information that you wouldn't have, that would require you to dig into your stats and surface them for you. The whole point is general encouragement rather than like these kind of coaching plans. Yeah.
Which I quite like. I remember one of my sort of funniest anecdotes from the tech space is about Samsung basically saying something similar in terms of you could have your home appliances watching you while you're doing exercise and connecting to your smartwatch to give you either encouragement or guidance on your form, for example. And all I could think about is my fridge watching me do the worst squat of my life and then just being like, no pudding for you tonight. Like, just locked out of my fridge permanently.
Self-locks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you do not deserve your trifle. Go eat a banana. But the approach Apple's taking of focusing on encouragement, focusing on the energy and the sort of mentality. The approach Samsung is going down in terms of like actually manually adjusting things, like very, very different. But they're sort of being discussed as the same or similar thing. And this is where it's going to get really interesting. It's like, it's not just what the AI does with the data behind the scenes to connect the dots. It's how that's presented to you as a user and how much or little you benefit. Like, some people might not need the encouragement of an Apple Fitness coach. I think those people are weird. I think everyone needs an Apple Fitness coach in their life, to be honest.
Apple had another great one this year with the, it's not strictly Apple Intelligence in the way that the Workout Buddy is, but it's about introducing hints to the smart stack. So they were saying, if you turn up at the same Pilates studio every time, every week, or every 2 weeks, or on a regular basis, and Apple learns this behavior, it will surface a hint as you arrive at the studio to start a Pilates workout.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is, oh, okay, it's like that, and you press. Likewise, when, so these are some of the contextual sort of ways that AI will move us towards taking all this data and creating a kind of a virtual assistant kind of situation.
Yeah.
But at the same time with health, it's got to be it's an intensely private thing. It's an intensely personal thing. It's a digital representation of our physical selves. So when it comes to the point where you've got a wearable that says, hey, you're 94% likely to be pregnant, or whatever the wearable index can show you.
I was just thinking about that. Like, I cannot think of a worse way to find out if I'm pregnant someday than looking down at my phone and it being like, hey, bestie, you're brewing something. Like, no, there are parts of it where I'm like, maybe that discovery should happen in a different light.
But there's also a question of privacy, right?
Yes.
Is this happening and being processed on device and being shown only to you, or is there somebody somewhere on the other end of a server in California who knows you're pregnant before you are?
Yeah.
So it's a delicate balance.
Yeah. I think it also goes back to what we were saying earlier about different types of wearable, whether it be a necklace or whatever it might be, that doesn't have a screen. It reveals how tough the job is of those devices to overcome the watch, because the watch has all that. The running coach, the AI buddy, whatever it might be, is much better represented on a screen than it is on a ring. Or I know they can do it, but it's such a task coming from this to a different type of wearable for that. Because I'm all for this. I love the idea of the running buddy and everything. I think I will genuinely use it, but I wouldn't use it on a ring, I don't think.
No. Until we get like proper projection tech that's actually going to work, I feel like those sort of screenless form factors aren't going to have the same uptake as smartwatches just yet.
Not for nothing. I do appreciate more than ever wearable technology that tells you about the known as opposed to the unknown that can be assistive. So no exaggeration, I took a bad fall last week, hard enough that guess what I finally saw? My watch told me, hey, you took a bad fall. Do you want me to contact emergency services? Like it was doing the buzz thing. And I'm like embarrassed. And I'm like, no, I'm fine.
I did fully think when you said, guess what I saw, you were going to say the pearly gates or something. I was like, was that bad?
No, but it was pretty good. But, but a relative of mine took a fall and he did actually get, the services there for him. He had broken like part of his hip. So, I think that, it's really interesting, exciting to think about the things it can tell you that you maybe don't know about yourself. But honestly, having wearables that can help you in a real-time situation is pretty powerful too.
Massively. So there's lots to come still on the software side. Lots of interesting things will happen in AI. But in terms of the next couple of months, we know there's some devices, or rather, we're fairly certain there's some devices that we'll see, Pixel 4 being one of them, some new Apple Watches. What are your big predictions about what's to come in smartwatches in the next couple of months?
I want to see the Apple Watch Ultra 2 really kind of put its best battery. I was trying to think of the best way of putting that. I want it to wear its best battery suit because it's not at the moment. It's just not quite there. It
doesn't feel ultra.
No, that's what I was trying to say. I think it's just not quite the ultra watch I want it to be. So I think this is the year we should see that significant improvement in battery tech. I think I'm very interested to see what they do with the Pixel Watch 4, presumably if that's what's coming. Because I've never really warmed to that watch. Not because it's a bad watch. I've just not really. It just hasn't worked for me for whatever reason. So I'm excited to see if they can hook me in with that one, I think.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on the Pixel Watch 4. I feel like it suffers from the same problems as the Apple Watch, the Apple Watches, which is the poor battery life, especially when compared to, we were talking about how bad the Garmin Venu X1 is when it goes down to 3 days when you use the always-on display. But even that is leaps and bounds ahead of either the Pixel or the Apple Watch. So I would love to see, I would love to see a Pixel or an Apple Watch with more battery life. I'd also love to see, if we're getting a new Pixel Watch, I'd love to see another Fitbit. I would love to see some real investment in that category and to create we had the Fitbit Charge 6 was the last one.
Yeah.
I'd love to see an Inspire 4 or a Lux 2 or some kind of reintroduction of the sleeker band-based fitness tracker category.
You'd love to see it, but how likely do you think it is to happen?
Do you know what? I don't know. Samsung did the Fit 3 last year, which was a sub $70, £60 fitness tracker that was a surprise move from Samsung, and we rated it quite highly. We gave it 4 stars. There is clearly an appetite for cheaper devices out there, and I think with Google has a massive amount of value in that space with the Fitbit brand, they could be missing a trick not doing it.
Yeah,
I'd agree. Lance, from your side of things, especially on Apple, what do you think we might see in the next couple of months, smartwatch-wise?
I do honestly think that it's time for a bigger redesign on the Apple Watch. Something that they just, it's gotten better. It's got bigger screens, brighter screens. It's maybe a little bit thinner, but it's. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's completely recognizable as an Apple Watch, but at the same time, we're seeing, people taking more risks. Apple has been in a leadership space here, so yeah, I would like something beyond maybe an Apple Watch Air. Something that is truly thin and light. That would be very exciting for me.
It'd be interesting, saying about that maybe need a design refresh. It would be funny with us just saying that things are homogenizing a little bit for them to just come out and be like, we've got a hexagonal phone, guy, smartwatch. That would be good.
Hexagonal phone would be something.
Hexagonal phone would be quite impressive. And Hamish, obviously, especially more on the smart glasses side of things, which is where you sit quite often in wearable side of things. Do you think there's going to be anything interesting outside of the new Meta glasses that we already spoke about?
So yeah, I think there'll be other new Meta glasses at Connect. We're going to probably see, again, this is based on leaks, and as we've already seen from this year, there were leaks about these Oakley glasses that were wrong. So take this with a pinch of salt, maybe a couple of scoops. We're going to probably see a version of what Google and Samsung teased with the Android XR, where it's not going to be quite as AR glasses as the Meta Orions that people like Lance have demoed, but it's going to be have a little display in the corner so you can sort of see a bit of a heads up thing of your maps or the picture you've just taken. They're probably going to be quite pricey is the thing. The rumours there might be well over $1,000, compared to the sort of $300 to $400 you'd pay for a glasses without a display. But I think they could be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of hoping that some of that hardware refreshes, like an improved camera and improved battery, might come to sort of a lower end Ray-Bans without a display as well. So we sort of might see two things, but we'll sort of have to wait and see on that front.
Yeah, I don't have any predictions, but I do have a wish, which is I don't want wearables for women necessarily, because I tried the Evie ring and I think you do take a hit when the market halves in size. But I would love to see some more form factors that feel friendly, because some of these square watches with little bony wrists like mine, just uncomfortable as sin to wear. I'm not going to sleep in them. I'm not going to even feel great wearing them out to the shops.
Definitely.
You know?
I think people are finding that feedback. The OnePlus Watch 3, there was people were, the big feedback was, this is great, but it's a 47 millimeter giant chunky watch, and we'd love one for smaller wrists. And they've listened and they came out with a 43 millimeter version.
True. That's true.
So perhaps there's clearly the Apple Watch has done so well because it comes in a variety of sizes, it comes in a variety of thicknesses. It's ladies or people with smaller wrists are able to wear them without feeling like they're sporting this giant chunky thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's coming down the pipeline, and people are listening to that feedback.
Yeah. I love what they've done with the Watch 8 as well. They've one of the most noticeable things about it, which Samsung did touch on, obviously, is the fact that the I can't think what they called it, but it sits so much closer to your wrist. Whereas the Apple Watch does. It's a bit of a chunk. The Venu sits very close as well.
Yes,
that's why I can't wear the Apple Watch, because I've got my bone sticks out on my wrist here, and it just creates this notch that the Apple Watch just literally slides off. When I tried the Watch 8 last week, I did not have that problem,
It's
which
so
was
much better.
lovely.
And I think as a result, it looks like I prefer bigger watches, generally. This is a little bit small for me, but because it's got that very thin profile against your wrist, it just looks better, I think.
Definitely. What's been the most comfortable watch you've tried so far?
Probably was the Watch 8 last week. I haven't worn it extensively, obviously. I had the Apple Watch Series 3. That's the only one I used extensively. And yeah, after about 8 hours wearing it, my wrist actually hurt because of my stupid bone. But that's what it's called medically, the stupid bone. Anyway, that is
got the funny bone and the stupid bone.
Anyway, that is about all we have time for this week. A huge thank you to our special guest, Mark, for joining us. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, guys.
And a big thanks, as always, to Hamish, Lance and Matt for joining from the TechRadar side. For more news, reviews, how-tos and more, check out techradar.com. Make sure to hit the subscribe button below and leave us a comment letting us know your Emmy nominations and what wearables you think are best. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
It is so hot in here. It's hotter than the face
quite
of the
warm,
sun.
yeah.
Open every door now.